So I have a pattern of attracting unavailable men. And I'll get one version of the unavailable man, and then I'll go, oh, okay, I'm not going to get that again. He was too busy working on his career, so I'm not going to look for that again. And then I get a different version of the unavailable man, and then I say, okay, I'm going to avoid that one, and then I get a different version of the unavailable man. So it seems clear to me that there is something that's reflecting in me, but in my head, I don't feel like I'm unavailable. So how do I find that piece that's in me? And
I get it. When you say unavailable, do you specifically mean that you're finding men who already have a partner, or that they're unavailable because they're devoted to work, or both?
literally every version of the unavailable man.
Okay.
So they're too busy in work. They say they want an exclusive relationship, but then they don't. Any version you can think of, yes. So
Okay. All right. So the reason for this, if you're interested in the reason I can give you, would you describe yourself as somewhat of a social butterfly? Mm-hmm. The reason for that is there's a psychological test known as the PEN test, or the PEN test, by a psychologist by the name of Eysenck. And Eysenck would analyze people based on their psychotic nature, which is actually just emotional decision making, their extroversion, which would be either extrovert or introvert, and then being neurotic, or the opposite. And a study by the name of Jackson looked into these personality types, and they found that those that had a high predisposition to one of the three actually would attract a certain type of individual. And you'd be shocked if I told you that people that rank high in extroversion, or that would identify as a social butterfly, naturally are attracted to and attract leaders who specifically have the problem of being unavailable. So you are 100% in line with the personality profile and this test of what would create that. Now, in my experience, someone who's creating that scenario, it all comes down to learning to qualify people better and almost train your partner. So let me ask you this: how often are you meeting people like this? Like, do you find it easy to meet partners, or not very easy?
easy to meet them, not easy to get to a deep level of intimacy.
Okay, I like that. So this is what's great about this. So now we know that you've got what would be called a plethora of options. However, none of them meet the criteria. The challenge then becomes to thin that crowd and start identifying who the right people are. The problem is you're never going to be able to bypass someone who's lying. So if somebody presents a version of themselves that just isn't true, we kind of can't really deal with that unless you become really good at reading whether somebody's lying, and then you deal with people that are sociopaths and they get better at lying, and the whole thing can start to fall apart.
I've had that version of Unavailable too.
Yeah, it's, I would expect so. So there's a couple of things you can do. The first thing you can do is start building up your own community that functions as your protection and also as an opportunity to meet people. So something that I've done with women like yourself in the past is actually gotten to start organizing singles events. And what's great about organizing a single event is the most attractive woman at a singles event is the one that's organizing it. It's much easier to get men to go to singles events, and you'll start meeting a different type of male. Instead of meeting leaders, which is what women will tend to meet in social gatherings, you'll start to meet guys that don't default to identifying as a leader, and actually they're a little bit more shy. Funny enough, these people tend to be a little bit more open and honest, and a guy that has humbled himself to come to one of these events is usually very open to just being like, yeah, something's wrong, I suck, I'm not doing very well at dating. And I can tell that as I'm saying this, you're kind of reacting well to that, which tells me I think you'd probably appreciate getting a moment of honesty with somebody who's just like, hey, yeah, I kind of suck and this is where I am. What's great about this is none of these guys are going there to meet you. They're going there to meet other people. So you get to see the version of them that's true. They're confiding in you while they're going out there and talking to all these other women. This increases the amount of people you meet, while at the same time plays to your strengths of being a social butterfly. I'm guessing you have no problem with organizing events and things like that.
That would be a good guess.
Yeah, thought so. So what's great about this is guys are always looking for a new meetup event, especially for dating. You think about Tinder and Bumble and all these other dating apps, guys will cycle between them. So if you organized a meetup event, and you could get really specific, you could specifically organize a dating event for people that earn a certain amount of money or work in a certain field or live in a certain part of town. You could control what that is, or maybe do multiples. It's not only a great way to make some money, which is obviously a possibility, but all these men that come and confide in you and talk to you, you become the confidant and you start to meet the real them. Now you get a view of who they are in dating, and they're not after you. But at this point, because you're building a connection with them, you can then make the move. And I feel like you'd be comfortable making a move on somebody.
No, I'm not. I do not. No,
You never make a move.
Well, I will do what I call. I probably can't say this on your video.
You can say anything.
So I think of mating, dating in terms of we're animals, right? And so I am open to what I call showing my ass, which is what a female does, right? She'll show you her ass, but she's not going to chase you. Yeah, so I don't chase men.
No, I love that you said that. And I think that's exactly what I'm saying. It's showing the sign that you're interested in them is the only thing that I felt that you'd be comfortable with. So that's great. I love that you're like, oh no, I couldn't do that. I mean, I'll show them my ass. Yeah, that qualifies.
But, metaphorically, not literally.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless you get to that point.
Right.
But that's what's so powerful about this is because most of the time, guys will need a very clear indication that someone's interested.
Right.
So what's cool about this is if someone starts confiding in you and then you literally say it, then it can really work wonders. And I've absolutely been in a situation where I was hanging out with a woman who I was madly attracted to, but I felt that we were just friends. And I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to own that friendship and that's where it is. And then the woman would say to me, hey, I'm in love with you. And I love you too. And then she's like, you do this for a living and you're really dumb. She's like, I will have sex with you. And I was like, oh, yes, just yes, right? So sometimes as a guy, we really do need to start out. And that's partly because we don't want to offend or upset someone, right? And once you're with someone and you're like, okay, I've categorized this person as a friend, even if you're attracted to them, you're like, okay, well, this person's a friend. I don't necessarily want to, make that person feel uncomfortable. And I'm very comfortable with them being a friend because I'm getting what I need elsewhere or what have you. It can be nice to have a woman say, hey, just so you know, this is a thing. And so I think, I'd like to empower you to feel comfortable saying that, to say to somebody, hey, just so you know, I'm attracted to you. That statement to a guy can really help them and be like, oh, great. And I get it. Now I know what I've got to do.
That's not too overt, more in the direction of pursuing. Like, to me, that feels more like pursuing. That feels too overt.
So I love that you said that. So just imagine that you're hanging out with a guy. You've heard his whole dating thing. You know what he's like. You talk to each other, you're hanging out and you're flirting. And if he's not making that move that you want him to, bearing in mind, we're dealing with somebody who isn't a natural leader. We're dealing with somebody who might need someone to give him that indication that it's okay to make that move. And I think this is something that a lot of women miss. What you're giving him here is the ability to maintain his respect for you while at the same time letting him know if you want to make a move, you can. What you're not doing is coming across as desperate. What you're doing is owning your feelings and saying, I'm attracted to you. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less, but I'm just letting you know this is where you stand. And why I like this is there's actually a psychological study that shows that when a woman makes it clear to a male that she's attracted to him, his attraction towards her increases by about 20%. So it's a really powerful metric. And in fact, a psychologist by the name of Moore identified that a male's success rate of attracting a woman is all controlled by whether a woman gives him a sign that it is okay. And if a woman doesn't give a guy a sign that it's okay, his success rate's about 0. So there is a lot of psychological phenomena that shows that you may need to give these signs. And the reason you may need to be more direct with the approach that I'm suggesting is because you're kind of bypassing the process by getting them to go into an environment where they're supposed to be dating other people than you. And you're getting to see the real them. What it does is it lets you get behind the veil and see the real person. You get to hear all the gossip, all the issues, and it stops you meeting those guys you're meeting at these networking events where they're all like, oh yeah, I'm great, this is who I am. And then you start dating them and you realize that they're not who they're pretending to be. You'll meet the real guy, but the real guy who's being more vulnerable and being a little bit more weaker, and you're seeing him in this humble state, may need you. Bearing in mind, at that event, who's the leader? So you may need, I love that timed at the same time. You may need to give that impetus and let them know, hey, I'm in charge, but it is absolutely okay if you want to do something, if that makes sense.
It does make sense.
Cool. All right.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.